Hey everybody, ronarray here, and GGG added Town Management Simulator to 3.25, which can be quite profitable. So in this video I want to provide a detailed guide on how to maximize your town potential, and to get some advice from it, based on my testing. The video has plenty of timestamps as usual, so if you're interested in some particular question, don't hesitate to just click on them, and I hope it will be helpful. Let's go! So the first part of a whole town progression is pretty much gold. Gold will be required for every little upgrade during your town. And also your town pretty much have a wage system. You will need to pay all your workers constantly. That will pretty much make gold the most valuable resource that you can get for your town. And it leads us to a question how to get more gold. So to get more gold, you generally need to farm higher tiers maps. Based on my experience, I think tier 17 maps are dropping more gold than tier 16 maps, mostly due to higher pack size and higher quantity. Right now, pack size and quantity is pretty much the main stats that can affect the gold. And I think pack size affects it much more, so try to rise up your pack size to farm gold faster. If you can do tier 17 for it, it's even the better. In tier 17 map, I've been able to farm around 30k gold per run, which is pretty much very nice. But what if you can't do higher tier maps for now? You're just progressing, or you just don't feel confident enough, or they cost a little too much. So then I have another absolutely awesome tip. You will need to improve your mining, because improved mining can provide you a very cool bonus. So it's right here, marking ore in areas grant gold equal to the amount of ore marked. That's a very good way, because at tier 16 maps you will be able to receive from like 500 to 1000 per ore marked from one nice location. And if you will be able to mark at least 2 ores per map for around like 800 ore, you will be able to receive almost 2k gold per that run, which is very nice addition, and I think it will help a lot to stack gold as fast as possible. So try to level up your mining first to get that cool bonus up as fast as possible, together with other cool mining bonuses. It leads us to a pretty interesting question, how to improve your town early. So early on, I heavily recommend everybody to pretty much go and focus on upgrades, such as mining, for example, and getting food from the garden. I don't recommend to focus on food too much, but you will need to upgrade it to at least get access to all foods that we currently have, like wheat, corn, pumpkin, orgone, and blues-anthidium. All of them together will help you to upgrade other buildings. So I think right now the most important part is upgrading your recruitment early on together with food and mining. You also will need to get smeltering, but I don't recommend to focus too much on that. Smeltering comes after. You will need some bars to pretty much upgrade your buildings, but you don't need too much. Another very important tip for the start of your town. Don't start off sending too many resources away in shipment. It's not what helping you to move forward. So just try to build your little buildings and pretty much leveling them up. You will get to the profit part later. So another important part is showcasing which resource will be most important for both your shipping and upgrading your town. So right now, that resource is just like Verisium ore. That's the main ore that is pretty hard to get, and I recommend to pretty much get Verisium as fast as possible and level up your mining here as fast as possible. So focus on mining early on, because Verisium is going to be absolutely the best for both shipping and upgrading your town later on. We will get to that point a little later in the shipping timestamp. So another very important part for ore is pretty much smelting. You will have a smelting building and you will be able to hire smelters to smelt your ore to bars. Bars are 5 times better for quotas in shipment, so it's definitely recommended to just smelt most of your ore or even all your ore to bars. Right now, as you can see, I don't have a lot of ore, and most ore that I have are pretty much smelted already, for a pretty decent amount of bars. However, I do not recommend to focus too much on smelting. Usually at least 5 smelters with higher levels are recommended. I have level 9 here to speed up the smelting that I need, and the rest is just like level 5. You just need to make sure that you have at least one smelter for every kind of ore to pretty much produce bars as fast as possible. Also, for all profit-related parts, Verisium bar is the most important bar over them all, since Verisium ore is the most important one. So try to get Verisium bars in as big capacities as possible. Another resource that we need to talk about, it's pretty much food. The biggest part for the food and farming plots that it's completely automated. So if your guys are up there and you have enough gold for them to work, they're just going to auto farm food up to the eternity. So I recommend to set up farm plots as fast as possible, because every next hour that you will have gold, you will constantly receive food, even if it's just wheat. The most important food is obviously blue xanthemium, but I'm not sure how much better than wheat, for example. Right now, I have a pretty interesting idea that higher level food can provide better currency, but there's not enough evidence to pretty much say it for sure. I still recommend to farm all types of food because you will get bonus for different types. Right now you have an option called farming plots can grow basic food and 5% increased crop yield per different crop being farmed. Also plot yield 10% increased crop per just plot being farmed. That way, if you have all different types of food, it will be much easier to farm food faster. Just use them all, and I recommend to use 2 for blue xanthemium because I think that's the most important food. So pretty much when it comes to shipping, the whole idea is pretty simple. First off, you need to understand that you have Karui ports with green flags right here, and you have Kalguur ports with black flags like there. And if you will send a high value shipment to Karui ports, you're going to receive tattoos as a bonus. And if you will send high level shipments to Kalguur ports, you're going to receive runes. So if you're interested in runes and getting them, make sure you're sending it to big Kalguur ports, such as Kalguur by itself, or for example Pondium, or Ribbonsfell. At start you will have just Ribbonsfell for Kalguur and Ngakunu for Karui. So another important part is shipment table. Generally you need to focus on proper resources to send them and receive proper rewards. So as you can see, out of all ores, the most important one is Verisium ore, because when you're sending it to Ribbonsfell it will give you scarabs. Ngakunu it will give you stack decks, which is very good. And Kalguur will bring you splinters. I think all of that is just like very good. Also bismuth ore could be pretty nice because you can farm quality gems for it from Ngakunu or Ribbonsfell, and you can also get jewels, even double corrupted jewels from Teanui port. So the rest of ores is not that important, and I honestly don't recommend to focus a lot on them. So just get bismuth and verisium out of ores. And all possible food like wheat, corn, pumpkin, orgont, and blue xanthemium are pretty much lead you to a currency. So to get the currency in the back shipment, like divines for example, you will need to get food in the shipment. Since blue xanthemium has like highest shipment value and it's 2 times higher than wheat, I recommend to start with it. So most of the time you need to add as much resources as possible to big shipments as a main strategy. There's also a strategy when you're sending small shipments just to roll that lucky divine chance, but I currently prefer to send big ones. That's why I'm just trying to raise amount of shipment value as fast as possible and as high as possible by adding food and stuff like that. There's also level. Right now I think the most leading theory that it has a hidden level of port itself and it's going to increase every time when you match the quotas. So I recommend to send enough resources to match the quotas together with as much food as possible, and if you're using for example Ribbonsfell, you can add Verisium ore just to get cool rewards. On top of that, there's another very important thing. There's a multiplier, such as thaumaturgic dust. You can add dust to every run, and 10 dust will give you 50% of shipment value multiplier. 55 will give you 100%. 518 will give you 150% increase, and 8104 will give you 200% increase. So as you can see, you need to add at least 500 of dust to every shipment to improve it. And if your shipment is very big and you are sure you want to rise it as high as possible, I recommend to add 8000 of dust to your big shipments as well, because it's a pretty nice multiplier. So another important question is pretty much, is the distance up to the port important? So how important it is? Generally, based on the rewards that I already tested myself, I think you can get bigger rewards from more distant ports. It's not confirmed for now, but it's pretty much the leading theory. However, that situation can lead us to a pretty important question. Which port is the best out of all of them? So, the biggest distance is pretty much Kalguur port. That's a very huge distance and it will require a lot of time to travel there. However, I still think the best port is Rivenfall. Because if you're going to pretty much use your resources to go for Rivenfall, with Verisium bars, you're going to receive scarabs. So sending resources to Rivenfall, especially Verisium, will lead into the scarab rewards. And that's why I think Rivenfall right now is the best port out of them all. However, when you're going to sleep, for example, or if you're going like off the game for some time, I still recommend to send your food to the Kalguur, because that will lead to pretty much higher rewards in terms of pure currency. So Verisium goes to Rivenfall, and food, all types of food, goes to Kalguur or any distant port based on favorite resources. So for example, right now I have in Pondium corn and pumpkin. I can literally send corn and pumpkin here together with some additional food for higher rewards. And that would be the best strategy. Verisium always should go to Rivenfall because it currently can provide the most value out of them all. Another option is only Ngakanu, which is a very close port too for stack decks. So only two options for Verisium, and I currently think that Rivenfall is going to beat it by far. So after we figured out shipments, there's important tips that I want to give to you if your town is not max level. Please don't send resources to basic ports when you don't have enough to upgrade your buildings. So I would still recommend to send at least basic resources away, but don't send too much, because it will lead you to a situation when you will not have enough resources to upgrade your town and progress it further. So just wait for higher levels of port, because you're going to receive amazing bonuses. For example, like port rank 11 will give you port quotas are 50% more rewarding. That is big and it will work so good. Another important tip to maintain your workers better is pretty much keeping in mind what idle workers are. So currently when your workers are not doing anything, for example the crew just sitting in the ship, you're not paying wages for them. And that's an important part of the whole progression. There have been theories that you need to get your guys out of the ship, but as you can see, it's not changed anything. I have a 4600k wage right here, with guys off the ship right now, so they're completely idle. But when I'm adding them back, the amount does not change, so it's still 4600. It leads us to a very important conclusion that you're not paying even if guys on the ships are just staying in docks. And it pretty much works the same way for every other thingy. So we're not paying to workers who's not really doing anything. For example, if guys are mining Verisium right now, they're receiving wage. If they're not doing it, they're not receiving anything. So right now I'm just paying for my garden and for my disenchanting. Smelters and miners are not doing anything, so I'm not paying them. And that's a pretty important tip. So if your workers are idle, don't worry about it, everything's going to be fine, you're not going to overpay them. So talking about disenchanting. Disenchanting is very important because it can provide a thermotheretic dust, and we'll need that resource for multiplying our shipments. To maximize it, there's a very simple trick. You can just open the disenchanting menu and use only jewelry to pretty much fill up your whole disenchantment tab with, for example, rings or amulets. it will lead to a huge uptime. So for example, you can see that my uptime right here is 19 hours, so I don't need to touch it for 19 hours. If you're interested in that, you can also check which rings are providing more and which are providing less, and two bad ones out. So for example, that ring provides 6k dust, but that one provides only 1000. It will lead to maximizing the amount of dust that you will need to. So just take out bad rings and keep only the ones that provide at least a few thousand. However, if you don't want to bother too much and want just like higher quality of life, you can just leave all the rings in and completely forget about that for a lot of time, because it will take some time to decompose all of it. So another nice question is what level of Disenchanters I generally can recommend. Since you don't need too much dust, I usually just use 3 Disenchanters of level 5 to avoid paying them more. I think that way they're still decomposing pretty fast, but not require too much gold. So right now I think that strategy is pretty much optimal. Maybe I will add one more Disenchanter later on. And as you can see, I have a pretty big amount of dust here, like 500,000 of it. Another great tip is pretty much in regards to how to get more resources per hour. So let's look at our farming. Around here I'm farming blue xanthium, and I have 3 workers of level 4 right here. As you can see, they're producing about 108 blue xanthium per hour, which is a pretty alright number. But here, I replaced one worker with level 9, a very expensive dude. So that dude is pretty much raising my production and almost triple that. So right here, just 2 workers, level 4 is the same like the previous one, and one level 9 guy, producing 487 blue xanthium per hour, which is literally tripled, and that's very good. So if you want more resources per hour, try to get as high levels workers as possible, because they're pretty much worth it and they're going to produce you much more. The only thing that you need to keep in mind, high level workers are not that gold efficient, so you will need much more gold to pretty much make sure they're keeping their production up. So if you care about gold efficiency, I recommend to stop at least around level 5 or 6. But if you just care about absolute number, go for level 9. And if you want to go for high levels, there's a very important part as well. You can check town improvement, and it's really important to get your town to a maximum rank. And after you get it to 11, you will have such option, the button right here, which gives you an opportunity to pretty much get high level workers, reroll for 22k gold. In my opinion, it's definitely worth it, because it provides you with crazy workers. Just look at those guys. That guy says rank 9 mapping, and it's very good. Another rank 9 mapping. And rank 8 for farming is definitely cool as well. So I recommend to use that option, even if it feels like it's very expensive, because it can give you workers up to level 10, and those are completely amazing in everything that they're going to do. So I think that can help you to maximize amount of resources and maximize profit from shipment too, because you will have more resources and more shipment at the same time. So another important tip to save you tons of gold. Generally, I do not recommend to get mapping workers early on, because mappers are going to cost you a lot of gold, and it will slow down the whole progress of your town developer. So generally, if you can avoid getting those mappers early, it is definitely recommended to do so. I usually recommend to start mapping workers only after you will level up everything else, and you will level up your mapping device up to a level when mappers will run at least yellow maps. Also, always make sure that you have 4 mappers sent to a mission, because that way they will have higher chances to completely complete the map and not partially complete it, and they will bring much more loot. So generally, mapping mechanic right now is very gold consuming, and I recommend to engage with it only later on in your progression, because chances for crazy currency here is not that big. They can give you some nice items, especially like corrupting jewels, for example, but it still will require a lot of gold, so don't go there while you're upgrading everything else. And the last part is pretty much about the Recombinators and your Runesmith table. So I never upgraded Recombinators for now. I think it's a very cool tool that you can use, but before you will upgrade literally everything else, I do not recommend to touch it because you will need to invest a lot of gold into it before it will be useful. So if you're not really want to profit craft with it, I don't recommend to go that earlier. You will be able to improve it later on. Pretty much the same approach comes for Runesmithing. I upgraded it like a little up to level 3, but never invested a lot in that. Because I'm trying to save gold for better upgrades, and that's pretty much what I can recommend to do, because I think it will be a right approach to upgrade both of them later. Because you don't really need any input from those two ways of upgrading to the whole of your town. Just go and get anything else which is going to speed up your progress. So that's been my guide for Kingsmarch. Some things still will need to be tested later on. However, right now most of the important stuff is already figured, and if you're going to just follow the main outlines that I showcased here, I'm sure your town is going to become a huge kingdom pretty soon and will definitely bring you resources. Thank you very much for watching, ronarray out.